You may remember some time ago there was a leak regarding Final Fantasy 15 Season Pass and the DLC included within. Well, now we have some comments from director Hajime Tabata about that DLC that was leaked, saying how those 6 pieces of add-on content were not the only content they had planned for Final Fantasy 15. Now, he said, quote, "That's not everything. Those are what we've announced, something we've decided that we'll certainly do." Now, he was also asked whether or not they'll be selling content outside of the Season Pass, or if there'll be other DLCs that you can't get included within it. And he said, quote, "If we decide to make downloadable content outside of the Season Pass we're currently selling, then that will be the case, although there's a lot right now that isn't clear." Now, one of the most obvious choices for DLC for the game would, of course, be extra costumes for the characters. And he said, quote, "But it's not just costumes, we also plan to increase the cooking repertoire. But although right now the top priority is polishing the main game. Once we could be finished with that, I think we can get up to speed on downloadable content and VR content. And by the way, the VR content is different from the episode downloadable content we included with the Season Pass." And he's talking about the VR demo that we saw at E3, which of course is episode Prompto. That is included with the Season Pass, but it's actually different from the PlayStation VR demo we saw showcased at E3, which starred Prompto. There was a safe assumption to make that they were the same thing, but apparently not. That's not the case. And the last thing I want to touch on here is how he discussed the game's structure. Now, of course, one of the main complaints about Final Fantasy 13 and 13-2 was the linearity, especially the original 13. It was very linear for the first half of the game. Only really opened up once you got to the second act, I guess you could say, when you got to Pulse. And many people are wondering, well, we're going to have a bit more of an open map here, is it going to be linear again? And it seems to be a little of a column A, a little column B. And he said, quote, "For Final Fantasy 15, we're putting both open world parts and linear parts to make up the game's full structure. The first half is a continuous open world, but the second half is story driven and progresses linearly. By doing this, the entire game is tightened, so the open world doesn't get tiring, and so that you can also get a traditional taste of Final Fantasy progression." I mean, that sounds pretty decent to me. I mean, that's kind of always been the case with Final Fantasy. Like, obviously you have a bit more exploration, but as things sort of head towards the end game, it does kind of tend to tighten up a little bit. Well, there's still, of course, exploration. You're not just going down a series of hallways. It is a slightly more directed experience than, say, when you're first exploring, figuring out little bits of the story, piece things together, figuring out who the villains are, that sort of thing. So as long as it's not like 13, where it literally was like, go down this hallway, then this hallway, and hey, 50 more hallways, and then 20 hours later you get to explore. As long as it's not like that, but obviously reversed, then I'm not really complaining. It sounds pretty promising, but of course we're going to have to wait until the end of November to find out how good this game actually is. But my fingers are crossed and my hopes are tempered, but positive, shall we say. Thank you very much for watching. Let me know your thoughts and opinions on everything discussed here, and I'll see you next time.